All right, let's call the meeting to order. Since we have our Human Services folks coming out from their meeting. So give everybody a moment to sit. Okay. Yeah, I can tell. When in doubt, blame the city manager. That's, part of the job. Didn't we include that in the job description? Yeah. All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Des Moines Citizens Advisory Board. Oh, I almost said council. For Wednesday, March 25th, to order. It is about 6:02, and in calling everybody to order, I do want to give everybody a reminder to please remember to turn on the microphones and move the microphones in front of people. We've heard from several people that it's almost impossible to hear the comments unless the microphones are on and in front of the person who's talking. So we will help you remember to do that. So roll call. Let's just go around the table. That's always.
Tara Vaughn, Staff Liaison.
Catherine Caffrey, City Manager.
Eileen Evans, Senior Services.
Lisa Franz Redondo.
Allison Chapin, North Central. Bettina Carey, Marina District.
Victoria Andrews, at large.
Corrine Anderson Ketchmark, at large, Human Services.
Diane Hoyer, at large.
Jim Lamparello, at large.
Mary Ellen Laird, at large.
Bill Linscott, Marina Tenants.
Jeff Cromp, at large, Arts Committee.
Mackenzie Myers, Business.
Charlene Bacalzo, Business, Art Committee.
Eddie Duggar, Central, Art Committee.
Gene Oxiger, Deputy Mayor.
Robin Desimoni, Council Member.
And Harry Steinmetz, Council Member and Chair. And I really want to congratulate everybody on wonderful use of that microphone. I know everybody will be heard. We did have one email from Susan White. She has conflicting meetings and asked that she be excused. Do we have a motion? I heard. Victoria moved, seconded by Bettina.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Jeff.
A quick one,
Yes.
just because I know. Randy Richards texted me and said that he sent you a note that said he was unable to come because of a medical issue.
Okay.
But I don't know where he sent it.
Nor do I. But thank you for sharing that. And do we have a motion to excuse Randy? So moved. And I'm going to count. Yeah. So moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Oh, one more.
And Charlene?
Oh, Eddie was just telling me that Rick's in Mexico, so we should excuse him as well.
Okay.
So Rick Laycock.
That's
I
right.
move that we excuse Rick Laycock.
Aye.
Having much more fun and experiencing much better weather than we are. Moved and seconded. I'll give Eddie it because she seconded it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Motion passes. So we have 3 excused absences. Thank you. The first agenda item is the approval from the minutes of the February 25th CAB meeting. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from the CAB meeting.
All right. Moved by Jeff, seconded by Bill Linscott. Is there any discussion? Are there any corrections anybody wants to make to the minutes? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposed, it passes. And then next item is the strategic plan update by our city manager.
Hi, everybody. I think it's been a couple months since I came and gave you an update. And so today I wanted to just sort of go through briefly the results from the public engagement, and then also talk about kind of the direction we're headed since we had the council retreat at the end of February. So some of you all may have been able to make the February presentation we did to the city council. So Colleen Gantz, your former CAB member, now planning commissioner, she joined myself on February 12th, and we gave a presentation to the council that sort of was focused on the CAB's efforts to help with the engagement, and then I also sort of went through a couple of the brief highlights of the feedback we heard. So if you came to that meeting, I am going to repeat some of it, sorry Shar, but there's also new information. But to sort of remind everybody, our engagement process that we did for this was pretty extensive. So it was a mixture of council interviews, an employee survey, focus groups, which many of you participated in, the town hall, which many of you were at, and then of course the survey, which you really helped us spread the word on. So it was a pretty wide swath that we did. You all recall, because you were there, but CAB was everywhere, right? There were pop-ups at the holiday market, the food bank, the library branches, which was terrific. That was the first time we've really leaned into those two branches to use them, so that was great. The holiday tree lighting, you guys did briefings at some of the senior homes like Wesley, Judson Park. There were lots of emails sent out, so much kudos to this group. And then, I won't go through all of this, but we extensively really advertised the community survey. And I think it was very important to the council and to this group that we make sure we're reaching out to folks in our community we don't normally hear from. And so that was great that you all were at the food bank. The library branches are a great way to do that. But then on the staff side, we worked with Highline Schools to actually hand out cards about the survey that were in 5 or 6 different languages to the English as a second language teaching assistants, hopefully so that they would pass that out to families in this community that maybe don't typically engage on that front. So as you all know, we got great participation. So over 1,000 surveys, which for a community of 33,000 is amazing. And then as you can see, we got some other great responses as well. And the city council member interviews, we were actually able to both touch base with the prior council as well as new council members. That was one of the first things Councilmember Desmoni did when she was elected, was do those. So, oh yeah, and there's a great action shot.
Look, Rick looks relaxed like he's in Mexico.
He was already there in his mind. And then you all were there at the town hall, so we don't need to talk about that event, but that was well attended, especially for being in December and rainy and dark. Some of the key things that we heard come out. Well, first let me say, I'm going to go over the highlights. If you are I would love to read more, in my city manager report a few weeks ago, I linked the sense of stakeholder report. It was linked in there. If you're I would love that, just tell me and I'll email it to you. But I think it was in the city manager report maybe 2 or 3 Fridays ago. But the first little article of that report was about the strategic plan, and at the bottom there's a link to about a 30-page report called Sense of Stakeholder Report that really goes much more in depth. So if you want to look at that, you're welcome to. But some of the highlights are the strengths that we really heard from all that engagement focus was what we already know. The community is very involved here. They are very passionate. They love to tell you what they think, which is both a blessing and sometimes less of a blessing, but they're very passionate. We got a lot of great comments about the location, whether it be just being on the waterfront or the proximity between Seattle and Tacoma, or even the proximity to the airport. Location came up a lot. And of course, many, many comments on the waterfront and the natural beauty here. This was not planned by me, but there actually were a fair amount of comments from people saying that they were pleased with city leadership, whether it's elected, and some good shout outs to staff, which was always welcome. So that was great. And then because part of our engagement was actually to our employees, and the reason why is because those are the people that will actually be like doing the work in the strategic plan. So it's good to get them to give some input. There was a lot of comments, which is true, about how the organization is very adaptable and they're very resourceful, and that is probably because necessity is the mother of invention. So there's a lot of people who wear 4 hats, or I used to do this job, now I do that job. And so it's really helped, I think, the organization be very nimble into leaning into kind of adapting to what do we need now. You all recall this probably because you were at the town hall, but we did that kind of real-time thing where people were putting in how they felt about things. So this was a great word cloud about what I love about Des Moines. So many things on there we see we're like, yep, absolutely. Mackenzie, I think Quarter Deck even was on there a little bit. It might be too little, but that's still, you still got some very specific shout outs.
Right next to Marina.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Quarter Deck. Yeah. But then challenges, right? Because the whole point of this was really to find out not only our challenges, but really where are the priorities so we can put our limited resources and focus there. So the main challenges we heard, which I think will probably ring true to you, is again a real desire to have a stronger downtown, or a stronger business community, whether it's downtown or Pack Highway, sort of that desire for more vitality. I think there was a lot of recognition from the community of sort of our ongoing financial struggles, right? And how do we really get our arms around that? There was a lot of comments about the airport and how much that impacts people's daily life. Yet other people love being close, so it kind of cuts both ways. There were definitely challenges about managing community expectations. So what I think this is really about is we are very lean staff-wise, and we are very resource constrained. Yet residents, in a lot of ways, that's not their problem, that's our problem, right? They still want to see a high level of service or beautification efforts, or things like that that we all see really become this community hot button issue. It is challenging for us to manage that within our resources. Then, of course, just in general, resources and workforce staffing are a challenge. And then, of course, I think it was very important to people that as the city is sort of growing and evolving and changing, that we make sure to protect the things that people love so much about living in Des Moines, which much of that was about the environment and aesthetics. So this is opportunities, and again, if you want to dive deeper, that report goes far more into all of them, and I won't go through all of these, but these were really the main things that came up through that whole public engagement effort as an area where we need to either expand because it's already going pretty well, or don't forget that's still really important to us, or we need to make it more of a priority. Something on here that I thought was sort of interesting is both public safety and transportation and mobility. Not to say that there's not crime in this community, but the comments weren't, I feel unsafe. They were more comments about, I'd like more traffic control, or as a pedestrian, I don't feel safe walking because there's not sidewalks. So it was a little different bent on public safety than when you typically hear like crime concerns. So it was much more focused on sort of roadway safety, whether you're a pedestrian, a biker, or in the car. Then, of course, hopes for the future. This one was always fun, too, to sort of see where people went. So, okay, big picture, what we saw come from this when we looked at both council feedback, staff, and the community was this desire to really focus on ensuring we have a vibrant community, and really a lot about thriving downtown. There was a lot about the marina. It was very focused in that part of the city as we want to see that more active, more vibrant, more alive. There were definitely a lot of comments about natural resources, parks, trails, things like that. Definitely residents made clear they want to continue building a stronger relationship with the city. You may recall on the survey, and I specifically added this, there was a question about, do you feel optimistic or pessimistic about the future of Des Moines? And I was really pleased to see that by and large people felt optimistic. And the reason why we added that question in is because I think we're at a point in this community where at least I frequently hear a lot of past upset feelings. And so those are really valid and important to hear. but asking how you feel about the future, I think kind of captures your mindset now, and so we felt like it was important to ask that. Some other themes were, again, public safety. So again, you'll see there it says more officers, but it also says safer streets. And so that, again, was really about that, how we get around this community, can we make sure it's safe for me? And then, of course, there were things, big themes on obviously our finances and making sure we get out of this habit of forever kind of like barely making it. So all of that kind of went into a couple things. So in January, we had a staff retreat where senior staff got together and sort of we took kind of first crack at this of kind of getting all of the public engagement feedback, and with our facilitation team, like the consultant that's helping us from Raftellus, we spent a day together and sort of left with, okay, what are our 5 or 6 big goals? What are the big like buckets of areas that are priorities? And we'll talk about what that turns into in a minute. The official term is strategic priorities, but really they're kind of the big areas we need to focus on. So we took that initial work, and then the city council was willing to give us a day and a half of their time, which is not a small ask. But we had a day and a half long retreat with them, and sort of they went through that similar process, and then we showed them, here's sort of what staff's first stab at these strategic priorities are, how do they land to you? And you know, you're always a little nervous, like, I think we got it right, but what if they have a totally different item? The good thing is they literally changed 2 words on a title, and that was it. So I was like, good, that means like we're really aligned with them. So that felt really positive. So I want to talk to you really about what those are. But before I get into that, where this goes is this will result in this plan that is sort of the list of the big priorities for the next 3 to 5 years, and then underneath that, there will be many, many, many specific projects, action items, do this work plan, do this study, get this going, start this program, that are like what our staff are going to do. And I do think it's important to sort of recognize the capacity our organization has to do this work. And this is not meant in any way to deter the council or myself from adding lots of things to that to-do list, but I do think it's kind of a recognition of reality. So this is sort of where we spend our time. We spend 85% of our time on just filling potholes, responding to calls for service, mowing the right-of-way, you know, like daily operations are, for our workforce, where 85% of the time is spent. And so it's a pretty small sliver of work or time that really is available to some of these really incredibly important initiatives. And really the people that work on these are typically department heads and myself. So we felt like it was important to show the council this, and in turn I think it's important to show you all this, right? Which is the reality of we're going to have some really big ambitious goals, and we're talking about maybe 8 people in our organization that work on them, on top of like being working managers. So the big priority areas, which you'll see there on the left side of the screen, they are financial stability. So these are the strategic priorities, like what are the big buckets? Financial stability, economic vitality, public safety. That says there connected community, but the council revised that connected and engaged community. Natural and built environment, and organizational excellence. And how those really kind of work together, and this is maybe getting into like way too much management stuff, so this is the only slide on it, we'll move on in a minute, but is really the public safety, connected community, the natural and built environment, and organizational excellence are sort of the foundation for which we can simply be a good organization that's doing what it needs to do. I mean, organizational excellence is at the bottom of the pyramid, because that is just like hiring good workforce, retaining good employees, you know, all that stuff that is boring, but like is what makes the city actually operate. But really those top 2 things, which I would say were definitely the highest priorities from the council, are financial stability and economic vitality. So everything on that little pyramid is important, but those 2, I definitely left the council retreat very clear, are the most important. And so that's where we'll really be putting all that discretionary energy. Because if we can get those 2 things right, they really are transformational for this community. So kind of even within those big buckets, there's a recognition that a couple of them are just super important. So that's them as the list. So what happens next, and then I'll go back to that so you can see this, is right now, staff are meeting next week to start sort of, okay, what does it really mean to accomplish economic vitality? So the council identified these 6 areas. We have a definition of what that really means to them, but now staff are working to come up with, you know, what are the initiatives we're going to do over the next 3 to 5 years that actually like start working on that. So we're getting together next week for that. And then we will bring the council back a draft of the strategic plan May 7th at the council meeting, get their feedback, and then it will come to them probably in May or June for adoption. And then at that point, we'll really, you know, it'll be my job to really be sharing that with the community, any neighborhood group that'll have me, you know, Rotary, things like that, so that we can really spread the word on like what the city's focusing on. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about what's happening next or things that happen at the retreat. That's my presentation.
Any questions? Corinne?
So typically, strategic plans have then action items. Are you at that place where?
Yeah, that's the stuff staff are getting together.
Okay.
Like, and we're getting the real initiatives to move things forward. Mm-hmm.
Victoria?
And you ran through the dates pretty quickly. When in June are you going to be starting your PR campaign?
So I don't have that date yet. So May 7th is when the draft is presented to council. Assuming they have only minor edits, I'm going to bring it back hopefully in June for adoption. I don't know a date yet because I need to know how many edits or changes they want. And then after that, we'll really get started trying to get the word out.
Any other questions? Oh,
I'm
yes.
sorry. I
Fine.
was trying to remember what my question was, and my concern is about the demographic makeup of the survey respondents, and how public safety may or may not actually reflect like 100% of the population of like the feel of public safety. Just knowing what goes on towards Pack Highway and like downtown Des Moines is relatively safe. I feel I can walk no problem, walk downtown. I feel safe, but the further you get, you know, up, I just wonder if we got what the respondents makeup was.
So if you look at that report I referenced earlier that goes deeper, it does break down the demographics. I will say, despite our very valiant effort to really get outreach from areas we don't normally hear from, you know, I listed all those ways, we did not receive a single survey that was not in English, and it continued to really be the people we hear from. But I am really proud of how creatively you all worked to really try and remove those barriers. So, to your comment on public safety, I would say I think you're not really doing your job as a city manager if you don't realize that like crime is a huge deterrent to financial stability and economic vitality. So don't take my comment to mean, oh, we're not hiring any more police. It's more so, I thought it was very interesting that that was the specific thing we heard a lot about, was this like how I'm getting around the community. It is public safety, but it's sort of in a different way. But yes, I understand what you're saying about just where crime exists here.
And if I could just kind of tail in onto that, if we're hearing from a lot of the regular people, that makes some intuitive sense to me that it's how they're getting around the community and sidewalk transportation and walking and things rather than crime. Because I don't think we're hearing from a lot of the city members that are, or citizens who are affected the most by crime. And I think that's the point. so we have to kind of keep it in mind. Jim, thank you.
I thought the breakdown of city staff time was very interesting. You know, we hear a lot about the financial resources of the city, and I think less about the staff resources, where there's probably 1,000 cool things we want to do and, you know, one person to do them. So I think that's a really interesting perspective that can add a little bit to, you know, when we hear, hey, why can't we do this cool thing? And the answer is we don't have the people to do it, not just a financial thing.
Thanks, because I actually wasn't even sure to include that slide, because I don't want it to sound like, woe is us. The reality is, though, like genuinely, everything on that action plan is going to be done by 8 people, maybe 10, you know, just because everybody else has like an actual job that they are fully committed to.
Charlene?
I am surprised. I really felt, I'm surprised that the survey respondents were all in English, because we did make such a big effort. But on that same vein, I think I felt when I did my time at the food bank that they were genuinely impressed by being included. And so even though they may not have responded, they know that we care. And I think our neighborhood representation represents those concerns even for them. So they know that we do have their best interests, even though it's the same voice regularly.
Well, and on the focus groups, which quite a few of y'all were at those, we actually did include some service providers there. So like the food bank participated, I'm pretty sure Lighthouse participated. So even if it wasn't the actual maybe end user of those services, we made a point of inviting those organizations so that they could maybe help amplify that voice.
Bill?
This is maybe more about where we're headed from here, because I think this is great. This is kind of like the Tier 1 plan. And so 1 in a row, well done. And from here, though, what's the rollout of the rest of the plans? How do they, you know, I'm used to kind of seeing a system with the supporting, you know, document tree that leads up to it. So out of this, when it's finally potted in that, how do the other plans fit in? Do you kind of pick those off under each category? How does the future look as far as plans here?
So I think it'll take some time, because you know that it's like, you know, oh, now we've got the seed, now we got to like kind of figure out what's next. The most immediate thing that I think will connect it to our work is we're heading into the 27-28 budget. And so we will be presenting the budget through the lens of those priorities. Additionally, departments will be submitting their budget requests, justifying which of these priorities are you addressing. So that'll be some internal work to immediately sort of frame how is what you're doing tacking one of those big items. And if it's not, we probably should talk about, is it a great use of our time? So that's a quick way. And then I think what you'll see is over time, you know, the Parks Master Plan will end up being looked at through the lens of those priorities. Council already has come to me with a whole kind of litany of ideas they want to do to tackle the downtown issues. So you will very quickly be seeing things coming out on that. And so I just would say sort of like, it's kind of like all of our work will now be framed in how are you connecting to that?
Corinne?
So this goes back to what you were saying about different neighborhoods and different languages and sort of the multicultural environment that Des Moines is. And that there probably needs to be continued data collection in terms of different groups, because to me this was a beginning. And I'm just thinking about another conversation we had, and that could easily enter into maybe some additional data. So yes, I think this is all very exciting.
Bettina?
So the way the survey was set up, I believe that it was Google Translate was available. When someone's actually completing the survey, at the end of the survey, would you even know that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
We asked, so that ran through Raftellus, but we asked them, like, will you know if it was originally submitted in Spanish or whatever? And they said yes, they would know that. And so we did not get any that were translated and transmission to us.
Thank you.
All right. Any more? Then we are moving on to item 3, the discussion of the draft ordinance 26-009 regarding appointive committees and the Citizens Advisory Board Code. And as part of this discussion, the council wants your feedback. And what we had talked about before was that the CAB wanted to give their own feedback, not have it translated through the council members that attend these meetings. So, as we're going through this discussion, it might be a good first step if we figure out who wants to come tomorrow night and give the CAB feedback to the council about this draft ordinance.
All right. Well, we went from something really exciting to your taste of being on the city council. So I will say, initially, when I made this PowerPoint, I told Tara drafted all this. So this is her day job, is actually being a lawyer who writes code. By the by, to Jim's point, like, that's actually what she was hired to do. But I originally on this PowerPoint had like cited the sections on everything, and then I took it out because I thought, if I were them, I would like stick this pen in my eyeball to be like, at section 26.0004, subsection A. Although Tara's like, that is good. I spent time on that. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, the lawyers like
It worked
that.
for me.
I took it all out, you guys. Okay, so as you all know, about a year and a few months ago, we sort of reorganized all these groups. You all know. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
I just wanted the discussion to start with, do we want to appoint somebody who's planning on attending so they take really good notes? Is there somebody coming tomorrow night anyway? Because I know some people that do, but she's not a CAB person. She's a council person.
I thought they may want to know what we're talking about first before they volunteer.
Okay.
Okay.
That's I'm
I see some head nods of like, okay.
all righty.
Okay.
Never mind.
So, as you all know, we have restructured this group. It is partially driven by staff resources and was partially driven by sort of like what can we support, because there were so many of these committees. I definitely appreciate everybody in this room's like willingness to sort of go with something that has at times felt clunky, and we're trying to figure out roles and what is my role, what is that role, what is expected of me. And I have frequently heard from people, we'll say Jeff Cromp, but many of you, that it's like, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I not? This is not clear. And so, additionally, the council has created the Planning Commission. So we have a new body that gets started in April. And so it felt like the right time to sort of look at the code to make sure it was cleaned up, and genuinely, as our goal is to clarify roles, right? And to make sure you know what your role is as a CAB board member, so that this can really be a fulfilling volunteer opportunity, and you don't feel like, what am I doing once a month when I go there? Okay, so the goal, and so if at the end of the presentation, if we have accomplished this, that will be success, but I know we're going to get a lot of questions. The goal is to really make sure you understand your role and where you add value. So I'm saying you because I'm talking to CAB, but this actually applies to everybody that's on a city board or commission. So whether it's the Planning Commission, the Lodging Tax Advisory Board, Civil Service, like we have a whole variety of committees. But we want to make sure it's very clear. And so also we wanted to make sure, CAB specific, that we create a consistent structure. So we've definitely gotten some feedback that sometimes meetings feel productive, sometimes they don't, and that it's not always clear how the subcommittees are supposed to move their work forward. And so we wanted to really make that clear. We brought this to the council at the study session in March? Yes. Okay. And as Councilmember Steinmetz said, it will be going for first reading tomorrow night, and then it goes a second reading. So, I mean, council tomorrow could be like, throw all this out, we don't want to do it. And in that case, I'll be like, forget that presentation. I don't anticipate that, but I want you to know this is not set in stone yet, which, as the Councilmember Steinmetz just said, is why I think he's looking to have somebody from CAB kind of speak tomorrow night. Okay, so let's talk about what this is. So when you're talking about committees and staff support all the committees, including CAB, by providing information, by coordinating like logistics, vendors, budgets. Like that is really staff's role. And then we are also responsible for really implementing council direction. So if council's like, we really want X, we try to help execute that with a committee. And then, of course, we provide a designated liaison, which, of course, in this case is the lovely Tara. And so that liaison is just that. They are a liaison to help you. They are not meant to be, and this has not really happened in this group, but they are not like your employee directly, you know. And really, the committees are advisory, and so they focus on providing input, recommendations, ideas, direction, and then staff really execute on that. So some things that also have come up is that all the boards and committees may function a little cleaner if they use established meeting procedures, which is basically Robert's rules, which you already do a little of when you make motions and things. But I think, you know, the council follows it pretty firmly. And so I put Robert's rules light. So I think at a future meeting, we're going to talk to you about, like, you already do the making motions thing, but like, how do you need to like call for motions and votes and stuff? So, and we, Councilmember Desmoni said, oh, we have this great placemat. They have this little cheat sheet up at the dais, and so I've ordered all of you your own that's coming. So anyway, don't worry about the Robert's Rules thing, but like, we're gonna kind of get a little bit of that formality in this group because this is a really large group. And so it's hard to always capture what happened here if we don't sort of have like votes and things like that. We also have implemented in the document clear attendance expectations. So if you have more than 3 absences, that person would be referred to the city council and they may choose to remove that board member. It's not mandatory, you know, it depends on what the situation is, but if you have more than 3 absences in a year, council will be made aware of that. Jeff?
Just a quick question, is that at our subcommittee meetings or at the CAB meetings?
The CAB meetings.
Okay.
And then council felt like it was very important to ensure that all of these committees really have broad community representation and that we're really, whenever possible, trying to get new people on things. So to that, membership has now been limited to 1 committee at any given time, which is why, you know, Charlene, Barton moved over to Planning Commission. We're getting new members. So it's sort of, you can't be on, oh, we had Charlene. Colleen, that went too. Did I say Colleen? Did I say Charlene? I'm sorry. Colleen. Charlene is still here. Colleen is going to planning. I'm sorry. Don't tell her I did that. So anyways, that was kind of part. And I did say Barton's name correctly. So that's part of this as well. We also have made clear that committee members, the city's existing ethics standards will apply to this group, which includes ethics, conflicts of interest. And so we are also going to, on an annual basis, be providing you all ethics training. It'll just be at one of your normal meetings. A lawyer will probably be doing it. But anyway, so we'll go through that with you all so you're aware of, like, what do we mean by conflicts of interest? What do we mean by ethics? So that just everybody's aware of it. And then this is something we did at the old city I worked at, and it really was helpful. But I think sometimes it's hard if these committees don't have a good connection to the city council, right? And usually you don't find out there's not a good connection until something goes wrong. So we have put in there a requirement that on an annual basis, there will be a joint meeting between the CAB and the council, and then there'll be a joint meeting between the council and the planning commission. And so that'll be a great opportunity to really get dialogue where your group talks about things you all are working on. Council sort of is more than just your 3 members are able to give you feedback, also talk about kind of direction they're headed. I think it'll just be very helpful. So we've put that in there. Okay, so the rules I shouldn't say rules. The things I just went through are about all committees, but these are things that were specific to CAB. So we've tried to clean up some language that the subcommittees have a defined area of focus. So you all, I think at your spot, not that you want to read this, but if you did, but it is Tara's really good work. I didn't want to say it, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. You have this lovely red-lined copy. You don't need to look at this now, but if you care later, you can. It has in there like the changes that are being proposed, and we tried to make the role of some of the subcommittees a little clearer, because we've heard there's sometimes confusion on that. Oh, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
I hear us going between committees and subcommittees, and I thought we were committees.
Same. We're all committees.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's a language. Yeah.
Yeah, the way it's written in code is you guys, so arts, senior services, and human services are subcommittees of the CAB. Because the CAB is a committee or a board, the three subcommittees. Sorry.
Okay, I saw Victoria got her placard up before Corinne.
I think it was, excuse me, at a previous meeting, I think it was the last one, once we changed our name to a board, underneath the board is our committees. And to make it more clear, we all, I thought, decided that we were not going to be subcommittees anymore, we were going to be committees. So I've been kind of taking notes as it goes, subcommittee, board, council, should be committee, board, council, I believe.
So
Is that not what everybody else understood?
I do remember that vote. The thing is this is a council-created board. So only council could change the name of subcommittees or the structure of this. This committee cannot change itself. Does that make sense?
So will one of you move to change it?
That would be the feedback we're looking for tomorrow night.
Okay.
So currently still subcommittees, but as you just heard, that might be addressed tomorrow.
Even though we don't call ourselves that. No. But if there's a procedure, if there's a procedure to do that, then we definitely need to do that procedure. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes. Please.
Eileen? Jeff? Nope. Corinne? Gene?
So, we just had the discussion earlier about, testing. Bueller. We had the discussion earlier then about attendance. Are we going to have to be careful about, if we're not going to have subcommittees, we're going to have committees. We're going to have to be careful about the language then as far as whether or not we're taking attendance at which level.
How it's drafted now, and that's why we're talking about this, right? Is, and I'm going to get to it in a second, this group will now be subject to the Open Meetings Act, which we sort of already are doing that, but that isn't actually prescribed in the code. So, meetings are posted, we take attendance, they're recorded, they're, put on the website. The committees are not, they don't function like that. And that was actually a big reason why we combined everything, is because we didn't have the staff people to have, get this all set up and have agendas and all that stuff, because actually it's a lot of work staff-wise. So those groups kind of function independently. So so they're not going to be subject to Open Meetings Act. The idea is that you meet and then you report those things here, and that's the transparency component, right? So when it came to attendance, how it's currently drafted is that your attendance to CAB is what is counted, because we don't go to your subcommittee meetings, so we don't know who's there and who's not. If that is a change that is desired, that's feedback that we can probably talk about. But that does add an extra layer of kind of formality that you just need to be conscious of.
Charlene?
Well, I would like to say that we do run under Robert's Rule of Order at our meetings, and we do take attendance and minutes. So they're available anytime, so.
Okay, so.
Jeff?
So, what's the definition, maybe this is something Tara has to answer, but what's the definition of the difference between sub and committee? What's the difference?
I mean, other than the obvious one, that one is subsumed under something else, which is why I think we started with these being called subcommittees. I don't really know functionally if there would be much difference in changing them, changing the name from subcommittee to, because you'd still be subsumed under CAB, so semantics, kind of.
Even though we'd be a committee, we'd still be sub.
Correct, just without the label sub, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill?
But I just speak back up and make sure I understood it right. I thought there was a difference, which is the open public meeting, or the act. One is very formal, the other has some latitude, and you can structure it as such.
Yeah, it's getting a little gray, and this is something we could clarify more in the code now that we have the chance to. But I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
Let's go to the next slide. Is going to talk about the formality we're instituting here. So let's go through that, and then if you all are like, man, that sounds great for our committees, we can talk about that. But that might help. Okay, so okay. All right, so we talked about this, right? So kind of affirming the advisory nature of you all versus what staff are doing. Meetings, this most of the time happens, but every once in a while here, topics come up that are not actually on the agenda. So now that you all will be like a more formal board with open meetings, you really can't just start talking about other things. Like, it needs to be what is on the agenda, a little bit like how the council has. So, this is a draft. If y'all want to go a different direction, you can. So here are some of the additional things that we're sort of adding that I do think will actually make this board, in the end, more productive, and you're clearer on what your role is, but may initially feel a little restrictive. And it's not really intended to. It's actually intended to make this feel more productive. But if you would like to have a future agenda item, like if you say, I would love to talk about demographic changes in this community, you would make a request to your staff liaison saying, hey, at a future meeting I want to talk about this, and then that staff liaison coordinates that with the chair. So that's like an actual process. And why that works is it allows us to sort of be prepared to give you a presentation on that, and allows for us to sort of, yes, that item does sort of align with what the role of CAB is. CAB is very general, but there are certain things that I can't know what they would be off the top of my head, but you could be requesting that are really like outside the purview of CAB, so it's probably not appropriate that this group, like remember, if the Planning Commission said, we want to talk about, I don't know, parks programming, that is not really in their purview, so we would not put that on their agenda. I see a lot of questions and eyes, so I'll stop here.
Jeff?
So when you were just bringing that up, you're talking about when the agenda for this gets sent out, if we wanted to add something, we could request that formally, but you're not talking about our individual subcommittee meetings.
Your sub/not sub, whatever y'all want to call it, those things function right now in our mind completely informally.
Right.
Like, you guys do what you want to do. This CAB, as the board, is becoming more formal. An example would be requesting future agenda items. We'll just say reports do not have to occur at every meeting. They can if you'd like them to, but something actually that the council requested, which will be a big change for you all, is that the committees would need to submit written reports. It doesn't have to be like super fancy, but I think the intent, and I'll see if the council wants to talk about it, was really that there is something submitted ahead of time so that everybody coming to the CAB meeting before they get here sort of knows what they're going to hear about from arts or what they're going to hear about from human services. So that is a additional level of formality that is in the draft. So last thing, and then we'll totally open up to questions. The other thing is that I think there's been a lot of questions as to, well, how do these committees function through CAB? Like, do they just get to decide what they want to do and they're simply informing CAB? or are they actually needing CAB to like weigh in on what they're doing? This was a very specific item we asked the council about. The code as written says that these committees meet, and let's say senior services says, we get together and we want to do XYZ program. Right now, what I've observed is Eileen just says, this is what we're doing, and everybody goes, okay. The code is written where you would say, we would like to do blah, blah, and then the whole group would kind of vote, like, yes, we agree with that, no, we don't. We did ask the council, do you want to keep it how it's written, where it's sort of a you are sub to the board and you ask and then the whole group like votes? Or do you want to allow them to do what they're doing now, which is more informally? And the council said they want to keep it as it's written, meaning a committee will say, our group met and we would like to do X, and then the whole CAB sort of discusses it, and there would be like a vote, which is also, again, getting back to that sort of Robert's Rules and formality.
And it would also, the reporting that comes from the committee to the CAB would tee up that discussion about what the committee wants to do, and so the CAB would be better informed to actually have that discussion. Victoria.
Thank you. I don't want to throw the Arts Committee under the bus here, but but they've signed contracts for bands. No contracts?
They did not sign contract. That's actually a big part of this.
Oh,
That is
okay, because it sounded like, hey, they did what they wanted to do, they told us about it, and we all went, yay.
Yeah,
But that's not what you're saying we should do.
Are probably like gonna, that has been a big conversation between us, because I think they thought this was the type of group where they go enter into those. And that is not how this is structured. So they did not. We've had a lot of conversations though about it. So they have not entered into any contracts. The city enters into them.
Yeah, so essentially they make recommendations to staff on who, you know.
I don't think that at any point, and Shar and Eddie, and I guess that's all, Bettina, I don't think at any point we thought we were going to be issuing contracts, signing them or anything. We were recommending, we were doing research and coming up with numbers. I mean, you know, unlike some of the other committees, we've got bands. One band charges $1,000, one charges $2,000. We came to you guys and said, here, we want these bands, and here's the price. And then someone from the city, I don't even know who that was, maybe it was Tara.
Probably August.
Maybe. Yeah, but I don't think we ever thought that like we were going to be signing on behalf of the city.
Well, we had some, you know, and again, these are growing pains for a new group.
Oh, yes.
There was a lot of conversation, like the level of kind of negotiation I think Arts Committee wanted to have directly with vendors. That really should be a staff role to do that. And so there was, I think it's fair to say, Jeff, some stepping on toes of like, you know, oh, well, we were kind of talking to them about the price and negotiating, and that, you know, we've been trying to sort of figure out that path. That's what I intend.
Okay, I understand.
But, yeah, but I think once you have your bands, you bring it back to the CAB in your report, and you did, and that the CAB would then vote on it, and it would go to the city. That's the process that's being added into this in order to make this a functional committee.
However, the confusing part still is we have a budget. And we went out and we got bands and we paid, all the bands kind of had a different pricing. Some of them were the same. So that's where some confusion came in, is that were we supposed to, or are we supposed to in the future, like we're already looking at bands for 27. I mean, we're not making any commitments to anybody, but we're gathering information. And when we decide on, if we say, okay, we want these 6 bands for 2027, are we supposed to come to the CAB and say, okay, we got these 6 bands, and we're going to pay this one $5,000, $4,000, $3,000, $2,000, $1,000, or whatever that number is, and the CAB decides on that? Is that what's the opinion on that one? Because we have a budget, and we've been told that we kind of have a little bit of autonomy to spend our budget a little bit how we like. I mean, not frivolously or, you know, yeah. So
I think we're struggling with the term vote. I think is where we're struggling. Because I think it is, if you're going more formal, I think it's more about a motion and a second. And a motion means I have interest in something, and a second means I also have interest in it as well. So I don't. There would be a vote, but I think we're stumbling over that right now. If everyone votes no, then it's out. It's you bring it to the table and you say this is what we're proposing, and so Jeff would make a motion, and then anyone else at the table who also would agree with what Jeff said would second it, and then it's open for discussion, and so you can explain yourself and those types of things. I would say barring anything extraordinary like $1 million for a band, you are in your committee because that's your area and that's what you do, and everyone appreciates everything you do. But I think what it is just clarity on how you get from A to B to C. And I don't think the vote is just, it's not something arbitrary, but it's something to understand how we got there. If that helps a little bit, I'm hoping.
And if I can help a little bit too. You have a little budget. How you are proposing to use that budget, that's what happens in the committee. That's what comes back to the CAB. That's your parameters. So if you want to have a band that's 1,000 and a band that's 2,000, however you want to break that up, that's your proposal. And then you bring that to the CAB. That doesn't mean, that you go out and hire somebody for $1 million and see if the CAB will vote for it either. That's, it's your salary cap, if you will, and you're John Schneider trying to figure out how to fit everybody. Does that make more sense? No. Not Daddy. Okay. Sorry.
I would like to bring more clarity to this subject. Sure. One, we were green, all of us on our committee. Two, we were told, oh, you get to pick the bands, and so we took steps to do so, and we did a mix of prices and recommendations from our communities. Like my own kid said, Nightwave, they're the best, Yeah. And then we took that to the city, and then the city negotiated, and then of course by the time it did come to the CAB, because now it's a month later that the CAB meets, we said, wow, we've got the bands, and everyone did say yes, yes, yes. But we did go through the process appropriately. I don't want anyone to think that we didn't.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not offended in any way at all.
This group's been functioning for a little over a year. Everyone at some point has told me what is and is not working about this to them, okay? I mean, I'm hearing it on all ends, from staff, from council, from you all. It is a good thing a year in to be like, let's make sure the code is accurately reflecting stuff and addressing the concerns we're hearing. This is not some punitive thing. It is actually meant to help, and just because you see something doesn't mean you weren't doing it before. And so I apologize if somehow that's the message, because that is not at all what I'm intending.
Bettina?
I have one more thing to say, and not on this subject. Well, anyway, in reference to reporting back to council, and I understand now they want it to be a more formal presentation from the subcommittee. So how frequently is that expected? You're asking then each committee or subcommittee to report to a city council meeting?
No, report to the CAB.
Oh, okay, to the CAB, because I heard it wrong then.
And only if that committee/subcommittee has something to report.
Which is what we've been doing.
It won't be required, but.
Yeah. Okay.
Bettina?
This goes actually back to why we had originally talked about it being a committee name versus a subcommittee. In general principle, each of these, I'll call them subcommittees just to kind of stay in the box. Each of these subcommittees are made up of people who uniformly have expertise in the area that they've selected. And then with that wisdom, that knowledge, and that ability, they come to you with the absolute best choices that can be made. And to bring it to a committee, a larger body, to then kind of hash out why those choices were made, I think isn't really very productive. These folks over here in Health and Human Services,
their, Human Services, their role, their decision, out of due respect, I would just go like, if you have to bring it to me as a CAB member, it's just a sniff test, that's it. I'm just gonna say yes, whatever they said. Because in principle, I would never have given them that body of work. If I'm gonna weigh in, then I have to know more about it, which I don't wanna know the intimate details of what their decision-making is, because I'm on that committee over there, and that's what I have to know about. So I think it's kind of like there's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And the letter of the law says the council wants everything to go back to the CAB for approval and then to the council. The spirit of the law for me says that should just be everybody agrees with that team and whatever team, because at the end of the day, they're the experts. They're the ones who've actually done their homework to decide these things. Now, in the Arts Committee, given what we were informed at the time, there had been a process that was actually a formal process that the city had for selecting bands. People submitted their bands, right? That got dropped at some point, I'm not sure how or why. And so that's where we ended up. Now that's back where we're at, where we have a formal process for picking the trucks and so on and so forth. But once people apply, then it goes back to the Arts Committee, I'm included in that, and then we pick from that bigger lot of entities. So a process like that in the middle that says, anybody come one, come all, calling all trucks, calling all vendors, that helps to gather the information, but it's that group, the Arts Committee, that should be the ones who say, these are the top ones that we believe are going to be the most interest to our community. But then when we bring it back to the CAB should just essentially trust us that we've done our homework. We've created a process. We've selected, we've spent hours going through these selection processes, interviewing them, finding out the rates and all that stuff. To bring it back to the CAB to actually have another long conversation about it is not very useful, even though the letter of the law says we must do that. The spirit of the law, I would say, is just, it's a sniff test. And it's a rubber stamp, basically. So however you write it up, that's how I'm going to operate. I'm not going to disagree with what they're saying, because they are the experts. They've been doing this, especially you guys, for years. Not
Right.
you.
So I basically agree with what Bettina's saying. But what just went through my mind is, isn't this body supposed to be part of a review process? And to review to make sure that the committees have covered all their bases, not in great detail, not in expertise, but just to make sure that it meets the code and the criteria that the CAB has for the committees to make their decisions to go forward, and to sign off on it, to make sure that everything, whatever the criteria is, make sure that it met the criteria of the CAB. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking to have you guys pick apart what we do. I'm looking at, did we meet the criteria that CAB has for making these decisions, because they're financial decisions.
What you just described is what is in the code. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So because the committees meet informally, you don't have agendas, they're not recorded, they operate with no transparency unless there is reporting out at CAB, and the code says exactly what Corinne just said. You present what you're doing, they maybe ask questions, or there's, tell me more about that, and then there's a general, yes. So if what Corinne said people are comfortable with, that's what's in there. So I'm not sure where the break is.
Well, and I would just...
One more thing is that our committee does operate off of an agenda. While we don't necessarily utilize Robert's rules, we use a consensus base. And so as long as that fits the criteria of CAB, then we'll continue to operate that way. Otherwise, let us know.
Jeff? Oh, Eileen, I'm sorry. Eileen has had that up for quite a while. My apologies.
So, back to the arts and booking your concerts. So by the time, let's say you do all this work, you're getting all this information, and you're like, okay, you can't do that date, but you can do this date, and this guy's got that one open, we might need to switch these two. And then, of course, you work with how much money you can use and how you use it. Then if you wait like a month to come back in here and you can't secure that particular, that then you run into trouble there. Like if you have to wait to come to us to say yes, you know, that's great. So maybe it could be something written where there may be exceptions to the rule depending on if there's a time frame. I also I see both sides there. As far as Bettina, these meetings can go on forever, and people can just dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and you guys could have spent let's say 40 hours on this, and because it's something that needs to be done right now, and maybe next month you only spend 20 hours or whatever. Then to come in and explain all of it, because everyone's asking every single question, you have to dig in deep to it. So there's something with the time frame that might become in the future a problem, but it hasn't so far, but I do see both sides, and that, Corinne, what you're saying is what we're supposed to be doing. So yeah, I do understand that.
Jeff?
And I think a lot of what Eileen just mentioned, that's one of the things, I mean, obviously with booking anything, if you wanted to book Climate Pledge Arena next month, you probably wouldn't get it. If you wanted to book it next year, you could get it. And that's part of what precipitated that. Even though I wasn't directly involved, I worked a little bit with Nicole going back 2 or 3, 4 years ago with the bands. And it wouldn't be until this time of year almost that the call would go out. Anybody that wants to be a band for our summer concerts, bring it in. Well, we're talking about 90, 120 days out. That's why we wanted to get the bands. We tied up the bands by the end of December. And it's our intention to do that again this year, is to have the bands that we want next year under contract by the end of the year. And sometimes the scrutiny that's been cast upon some of the things that we've done, as Charlene said, and everyone's admitted it, we've met with Catherine, we've met with AJ, Tara, is that when this all started last year, we were just kind of throwing out, and it was kind of like, here you go, committee, go do stuff. Yeah. And we were doing things, and later found out that maybe the city didn't like the exact way we were doing it, but no one had, it's like we didn't know what we didn't know. And like with the Human Services Committee, in all these meetings that we've had, I haven't, and nothing against you guys, don't take this wrong, but I haven't seen them have to stand up and say, we're going to contract with Southeast Kids, whatever thing, and we're going to give them X amount of money, or we're going to do a program with them. And yet with the bands, we've kind of been pretty transparent with the way that we were operating. And it's the same thing with the food trucks. I mean, our stuff is a little more visible. Your guys' isn't as visible. The senior committee, it's not as visible. Well, that's, and I look forward to that. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of mistakes maybe that were made on both parts, but they were unknowing on both parts too. And, some of this will clear it up, but I do agree that sometimes, I mean, we had a couple of the bands, there was little glitches back in November and December of getting these contracts done and out to people and stuff. And there was one of the bands that said, hey, I've given you guys this date next August. And they're one of the national bands, and they're saying, hey, if we don't get this tied up pretty soon, I'm going to have to just, let it go. And we would have to find another band, which wouldn't have been the most terrible thing in the world, but knowing that we wanted the band and we'd kind of negotiated with them and kind of wanted to do them, that if we wouldn't have gotten things done, and so the delays can cause some of those things to go flat on us.
Lisa?
I just wanted to say thank you, Arts Committee, for spending all that time putting the concerts together. A lot of my friends and neighbors were really looking forward to your concerts. Thank you.
And for having the foresight to start that early, to start that process and understanding that. I mean, nobody's complaining about that, but a lot of times it's stumbling forward. And we're figuring it out as we go, and it'll be much better next year, I'm sure. Victoria?
Catherine, as you have listened to this discussion, is there a way to resolve the timeliness issue?
You mean specifically to the bands? Well, I mean, honestly, in that case, Jeff and Shar did meet with us, and we did get them under contract. So it was fine. I mean, yes, we had the one stumble where a thing didn't get out because of a paperwork thing, but I was not aware we were your holdup.
I'd like to clarify, and I think I understand her question. It's just that
I'm addressing Eileen's concern mostly about timeframes and missing the boat.
Right, but at the same, I think what came out, what I interpreted tonight was like, okay, here's the bands, we go to the city, and then we have to come back, get a vote, and the CAB has to approve what we just did, and that's where the delay and confusion comes in.
So I think I would welcome that. This is something we specifically asked the council, and they provided us direction on. So I get you're all looking at me, but I'm gonna because like we do what we're instructed. So I don't know. Do any of y'all want to comment on this, or if we, we're bringing this to you so we can get this feedback. So I hope this is met with the spirit we have brought it to you, which is we're bringing you to you before first reading to have this conversation.
And Jim has had his placard up for a bit.
Yeah, I think for timeliness thing, that just drives overall schedule. If we know that, hey, to get the bands we want, you have to do it by December, that means, well, we got to get it on the CAB agenda by December. And if that's not going to work, then we got to get it on the earlier one. And, it drives the sequence of agendas that city staffs can put together.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah,
Gene.
I think the thing here is that they say when you're putting on an event that, when do you start planning the next year's event? It's like the next day. The next day. Right. Okay. And I think that this is kind of what this is. This is putting a time element into the whole process that, don't wait until the last minute, just get it in process. And I don't think there's any kind of blame or anything else going on here. It's strictly that, okay, we got to figure out how we're going to do this, and so that we can adhere to those, deadlines, and be able to, pull off what we're trying to do in a timely manner.
Phil?
Yeah, I was thinking that the nomenclature we're using as far as this approval out of this board, I view this more as all these committees, the subcommittees, whatever we have, rolling forward, they're bringing forward, in all cases, recommendations based on the work they've done. And when we look at the recommendations they're bringing together, I think our criteria for endorsing them or moving them forward are more along the lines of, do they meet your primary constraints? Like, did you meet budget with your bands? And the answer is yes. After that, it goes forward, and I think what we're getting around to is we need to recognize the only ones that can commit the city is the city, and that's after, depending on dollar amounts, approvals from the council. So it's kind of like we keep these things in a terminology that is, proposals and endorsements, and stay away from detailed approvals. Meanwhile, go do your work and then bring them forward, and we ought to be looking at the overall arching things like, does it meet budget, and after that, go for it. Anyway.
Diane?
I was just going to address, maybe Jeff, you have to start in November, have your deadline in November, or bring it to the big, no, what I mean, bring your recommendations to CAB in November. So that might be a way to get around it.
You can't, they don't have all of it.
No, that won't work?
Oh, no, that.
Well, Our recommendations, yes, but it's not until they're, kind of the city then approves that recommendation, but you're just saying, I don't know.
So, the process, Charlene, would be, you guys, like this year, you go, we want these bands, and then you would bring those in a written recommendation to this CAB before you talk to city staff, really. And then this committee would go, yeah, we think those are great bands, you know, and you're within your budget, so perfect. And then I'm here, I will listen, and I will get that information to where it needs to go, and then we can start contracting and reaching out to the bands.
I would say in retrospect, that's kind of what we did do. I mean,
Yeah.
we did bring a list to the body almost every month when we were in the process and explained that these are the bands that, you know, through the process, and then we submitted it to you. So there just was never, well, everyone agreed, but, you know, it's still a learning.
Yeah, this is not like
It's all a
the
learning.
Arts Committee's in trouble.
No, I don't take it that way at all.
It was
I'm just trying to
fine.
get the
We all
process
learned.
down correct.
We stepped on each other's toes.
Exactly.
The bands are here. It's fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
Robin?
Also, coming in cold to this group, right? Some of this is also just transactional. I don't think anyone here is going to question how you decided on those groups. If someone here was extremely opposed to country music, for example, please explain your selection. But otherwise, that's not what it is. It's for transparency. So I can go back and look at these bands were selected. The motion was seconded. There was an amendment to the motion. One band hadn't committed yet. It's more of a transactional paper trail to see how we got there is also what we're doing. So we have historical notes. So someone can go back and read it and see how this happened. It's not questioning your decisions. What it is it's showing how it got there. And again, the CAB decides, but you're all here because you're experts in your field. So the CAB is making sure it's by the code, by the ordinance, within the budget, and then after that, it goes on to council. But it's helpful to have that paper trail as well, and that's also what those parts are.
Bettina? Oh, Jeff has had it up for a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So I'm going to wrap it up by just saying I think we need to have on our agenda and add new business so that there can be new topics that are brought up because they can be very relevant and timely. And also some sort of time frame in which agenda recommendations need to be given so that we do have the public notification system. We need to know kind of that timing because I think it will come up. And then lastly, again, regarding this conversation, there are things that are going to come up and that are going to need to be handled by the city. One of the other ones that, you know, we bumped into without meaning to as well is just, you know, sponsorships. Like, great idea, let's do sponsorships, I love it. And then it's like, yeah, but we have to do that. The city has to do that, right? And whether the city is even prepared to do that, that's a big question mark, right? And who would they accept money from? We would love to do grants. You know, we would love to go out and get some grants. We've got a really cool program that we want to do this fall. Does the city need to do that? So we're going to keep running into these little things that we have to work through. But putting the processes into place is actually what's going to eventually help us. So, but again, out of respect, at least you all have my sense here is that if this committee or that committee or another committee recommends something, I'm going to just sniff it. I might have a relevant question, but I'm going to, in the spirit of you're doing all that work, you're the experts, I'm not going to tear it apart. I'm just going to basically say, yeah, that sounds great.
Jeff?
Yeah, I want everyone to understand, you know, there's no hard feelings here at all. Okay. Catherine? No, there's no hard feelings. It's just, you know, we hit the ground running without any guidelines, and I think there was just a lot of frustrating growing pains. And, yeah, we had to work through those, and yeah, there probably were a little bit of hard feelings at certain times, but that's all in the past now, and we've learned quite a bit, and I expect that this year, 26, will go a lot smoother, and we still are looking for some of the stuff from you guys, like for the sponsorship stuff, to see how that could work, because I think that's a revenue source, whether it's a revenue source for the Arts Committee or whether it's for the city, that I know people that would, put their banners up at the concerts, and they would pay to have that done, whether it's a Ford dealership or a beer vendor or a landscaping company. That we have some revenue opportunities that I don't want us to miss, whether it goes into the city's budget, the arts budget, or whatever. So, yeah, there's no hard feelings, Catherine.
All right. Then, that is,
So who wants to go tomorrow?
who wants to present to the council?
Let these fine people know how you feel.
I generally am fine with it, but I would love to spread the wealth with others.
She would like support.
Thank you, that's what I would like.
Bettina's usually there. You're usually at the council meetings, anyway. You are? I am not. You're not?
Because of this.
No. Okay. Charlie?
I would like to nominate Victoria.
I know you did already, but I really would truly,
Okay.
I do enough, is the way I'm thinking right now. I would like someone else to carry a little bit of the load, not just me this time. So, no, thank you. They'll be back in a minute, let's just do it now. I would, other than I do not like to speak in front of people very easily, and someone couldn't make it tonight, so I'm gonna speak and do their little role, so, yeah, otherwise I.
Honestly, there's less people at council meetings than there are here tonight. So it's
Actually, yes.
actually a little bit easier. Okay.
All right. Well, short of that, I think we do have some pretty good notes.
Yeah.
Let's add to the discussion.
Add, if we're looking at the, the wording in the municipal code or whatever. So if I understand it correctly, with CAB, there's 9 neighborhoods, and so 1 from each, and then 2 business owners and 1 marina tenant, and then 11 at large. So that could basically be 23 people, if I added correctly. The subcommittees, it does say that you have to, your minimum's 3, but your maximum is 9. And so that comes out to 27.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only 23 to choose from, but yet it's saying we can have 27, but there isn't 27 to have.
No,
Or did I misunderstand this?
No, I mean, that's essentially correct. It's just that the the committee members, whatever you want to call it, they have to come from the CAB. So there could only be 23. Like, that's the max. We allowed up to 9, so like maybe there's 5 in one and 9 in a different one. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So they all couldn't have 27, the subcommittees, because that wouldn't work.
Because there's not that many
Right.
people on the CAB.
Understand. And then if, just as it sits right now, and there's 11 at large, let's say 8 of them were all from the Marina District. They could be. Or all 11 could be from the Central District. And I thought kind of the idea is to not have that, not have the majority from.
Talk about the geographic.
Yeah,
the
so I was just going to say, in the code, it is written that we're going to try to get a geographic and a demographic spread of representation. So if, the council has to approve the members, so if they see that all 11, are from one area, they probably aren't gonna approve them all. I mean, I don't wanna speak for you guys, but.
Okay,
I think-
that's all I had to say, yeah.
I think we are aware of that, and we wanted that goal of demographic and geographic representation.
Okay, great, thank you.
Bettina? Oh, Mary Ellen, or Randy is and Randy or Rick. Uh-huh. Wow. Okay.
During this meeting.
All right.
Sorry, okay. So I just wanted to take a minute and let you guys on the Arts Commission know how much I appreciated the work that you did last year. I went to all of the concerts. I loved every single one of them, even though you had different genres of music, so. We didn't have anything to do with last year's. Oh, well, whoever did.
I'm glad you loved it, though.
I did. So
Just wait till this year.
I'm actually looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right, Bettina?
Okay, lastly, regarding attendance, does it begin from the time this gets approved by the city council? Yes!
Everyone would.
Because I inadvertently missed last time.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, Jeff, are you still?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm just kind of used to it. So that's fine.
Yeah,
I always look over there now. Okay, Victoria. And Bettina, are you?
I have a question.
Yes.
What exactly is it, and I am not agreeing to be the person that does this, mind you, but what exactly is it that we're supposed to be telling you tomorrow? Because the only thing that I would, if I were going to do it, which I'm not, is that I would like the council to change the language from, on the cab, from subcommittee to committee. That's the only thing that I personally, and I'm only speaking for me, not everybody. That's what I would want to report. And that's the only thing I would want to report. We had a great discussion. One could say that. And that's the only thing that I would like to bring to you to deal with.
Charlene?
I'm just not.
My question would be, perhaps after hearing the reports from the subcommittees, and I'm sure they'll be brief, is that something that the council would want to hear tomorrow night? And I would agree with her statement, plus maybe a blurb on the 3 committees. Is that what you're asking or expecting?
The intent was because this code is all about your group, rather than having the council members or deputy mayor be like, this is what CAB said. You all have indicated before you like to be your own voice. So I think Councilmember Steinmetz was just trying to give you what you've asked for, which, I mean, gotta say, I feel a little bit like that way tonight right now too, okay? Okay? So it's not like you have to come report to it's tomorrow they're gonna talk about the ordinance that governs you all. You should go say something about it because it's your ordinance. Or else their ordinance, but you know what I mean. It affects you all.
I know at one time we did express interest in sharing our activity with the council, but certainly not every month even. And they're not asking for that.
Nope. Nope. But more.
Can we not just make a motion tonight that this is what we would like, and without having to make the presentation tomorrow night? Can we not just make that motion now and be done with it? Because that's what we're telling you what we want.
It's been moved and seconded. There we go. Robin, do you have a comment as to the motion?
I think the nature of the request was if you had anything that you were not satisfied with what has been changed or is about to be changed or now will be the law, if there's anything you'd like to ask the council tomorrow, and if that's not the case, we're just averted by the word sub. If that's not the case, I think that's fine, because we will discuss it and it will move forward, unless there was something sticking tonight that you wanted to get off your chest tomorrow. Then I think we're there. I think we're there.
Corinne.
Okay.
And I greatly appreciate the fact that you were trying to honor what has been requested in the past. However, I think we have beat this to death, and it's time Oh, for me, it's time to put it to bed, to put it, wherever you want to put it. And I totally approve of this and want to see it go forward.
As is?
Well, I mean, that whole subcommittee thing, we can take care of that. We don't have to necessarily take care of that tomorrow. We can take care of that some other time.
And Eileen would like to continue beating the dead horse?
So, this may not be the appropriate time, because this is about what is redlined, and what do you have about what's redlined. But one of the things I do want to bring up for future redlining, or even just as how I feel,
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
If it applies to the subcommittee or committee, that's the motion. That's the motion that's in front of us. And if this is sounding like a different suggestion. So, is there any more discussion or debate on committee versus subcommittee and reporting? And do we understand that the motion from the CAB is to report to the council that they would like to be known as the Arts Committee, the Senior Services Committee, the Human Services Committee, not subcommittees? Correct. That is the motion. Well, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Chair, does that work? Because council has to choose that,
Right.
Yes,
Yes.
but that's just,
Yeah.
no,
You
it's
guys
just a
will make the final
it's a
decision
report
on
out.
that, yeah.
Eileen, you have another motion.
Something came up before about when the votes were being placed for the planning commissioners. And it was noted that if you were just by one person, that they did not vote for anybody that was interested in being on the planning commission if they were on CAB. And so they were immediately disqualified in their respect. And they specifically did not vote because a person was on a CAB member. And it would, if people agreed, and council of course agreed, that it would be nice in the future maybe to be that a CAB member would not automatically be disqualified for allowing, not allowing to apply, but being selected for another commission, or for another board, or...
If I can answer that.
Yes.
I think it was that person's criteria of who they were voting for was if that person was already involved in any other appointed board of the city, they weren't going to vote for them on the planning commission. So it was even broader than the CAB. And that's that own council person's criteria. They get to choose that. They're announcing that criteria to the city, and that's what they base their vote on. So it wasn't a disqualification in terms of eligibility. It was a disqualification for that particular council person's vote, and they get to choose. So we cannot we cannot dictate that to a council member.
Thank you for
Is that clarifying it?
clarifying it. Thank you.
Okay. Bettina?
Along the same clarification, I believe that was because that person believed that if you signed up for something that you should fulfill your term as you had originally agreed. So that's possibly the reason.
Okay. We're talking about one council member's reasons for doing it, and that's not really any kind of a motion before us. And, yeah. So, okay.
No, the only comment I was going to make, though, is that you were on the senior committee, I was, other people were on committees. Once the CAB was reestablished, remember, there's all new terms. People got 2- and 4-year terms, so that was irrelevant, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. Okay. I think we have completed. Are there any of the subcommittee or committee reports? I was not made aware. Yes. Corinne? Yes. Human Services? Human Services.
We have been in the process of looking at doing a resource guide, and we're going to coordinate that with the website. In the meantime, the committee members have been researching 988, 211, and 411. And we're going to bring that information in addition to other information together to help develop that resource guide. And the other thing is that the grant process is opened, and we'll be working on that in the next few months and bring our recommendations to the CAB. And you know, and then we're looking at maybe doing a needs assessment. So lots of great work is out there before us. So we're really excited. So thank you.
All right, senior services? Senior services?
Yes. So I basically have the agenda the meeting minutes that were typed out. So I'm gonna, without having to read through the whole thing, I'll just skip around a little bit. As far as attendance, Eileen, Susan, and Allison were there. Kim Payne with the Parks, with Community Enrichment attended as a guest. And then Joanne Hayden, who was a former Senior Services member, was at the end kind of listening, and she commented on some things. So as far as memberships, Allison, welcome. She came to the last one and would like to join with us. And Susan is reaching out to Redondo community because there's an opening, as I understand, there. I reached out to Woodmont, and I do have somebody that is very interested, and we'll be putting in an application. And then we talked about a couple programs, Des Moines Historical Projects, let's say, we'll just call it that. Like a traveling historical history is kind of how was labeled, and this is proposal, of course, to have hopefully a yearly event where we would either allow just seniors to have a booth and talk to the public about their long-term residence, or bring artifacts and kind of discuss what they are and where they relate to the many years they've been resident within the city. And then maybe try to do it when there's another event going on, so it would be like, oh, after we're done with Men in Black or something, let's go over to the community building and check this place out or something, because of the attendance. This will be take some time. And of course that is, we're targeted for 2027 because there's a lot of planning there. And then the other thing is a program called Postscripts, and that's where school students who have community service hours due to their curriculum would sit down and interview seniors that have been residents here for a long period of time and give some stories and that kind of thing. And either it could be in the manager's report once a month, just a little blurb, or maybe if there's room for a spot in the Current magazine brochure, we could do something like that. And then intergenerational programs, Allison is contacting the school district and trying to set up a program and where they would have arts with a senior, would be bringing in some arts. They don't have arts in the district now, so it would be a great, addition. And then Joanne, who was piping in at the end, who was a former Senior Services member, she's a prior school teacher, and so she wants to do a program where she can do reading with the kids. And so Kim with Community Enrichment mentioned that would be best as a school district project. So the city has no liability, it's them. And as far, maybe we would, of course, meet with Tara, but the program where students would interview the seniors, maybe it'd be a co-partnership where we would find the seniors for them to interview, but maybe not be a city program, but because it's possibly a curriculum that the school has to do. And my thoughts behind that too is if the less we have to do, then the more time is open to do more things. And I think that wraps it up.
Thank you. Arts?
Yeah, just real quick, we have these posters now that you'll start seeing around town. There's actually one as far away as downtown Bellevue.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that Catherine and AJ had Alex on the staff put this together, and it came out really nice. We had them printed up at the print place, and we've got ones this size. We've got bigger ones. We even have double-sided ones. Like I put one up today at Arturo's so you can see it from the inside and the outside. And we've got that, and we're working on, we submitted a list to the city for food trucks that we were recommending, and that's being vetted now. And then also Courtney had put a thing out on Facebook of soliciting food vendors and bands actually, but the bands for the 4th of July and food vendors, but that could trickle over to us. We're still going to be having our video contest in the fall, and as I said, we're working on bands for next year already.
Wow. Great. Thank you. All right. Anything for the good of the order?
I think we've been with it.
Then do I have a motion?
I motion to adjourn.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We are done.